I'd been waiting 6 long months for my custom medical equipment to arrive, 6 exhausting months of physical therapy, pain management, and endless battles with insurance paperwork. When the delivery company finally called to confirm that they were coming today, a wave of relief washed over me. Finally, I could begin my recovery properly. I live in Oak Ridge Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood filled with well-kept lawns and cookie-cutter homes. It's a pleasant place, if you ignore the homeowners association that rules with an iron fist. And at the head of this suburban dictatorship stood Karen Wilkins, a woman in her 50s with a perfectly styled blonde bob and a permanent expression that suggested she'd just smelled something foul. The delivery truck arrived around noon. I watched from my living room window, eager to help the driver with the large package. But before I could even open the front door, I saw Karen marching across my lawn, clipboard in hand, her face twisted into that familiar scowl of disapproval. "Excuse me," she called out to the delivery driver, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" The driver, a young man probably in his 20s, looked confused. "Delivering a package to this address," he replied, gesturing toward my house. I stepped outside as quickly as my condition would allow. "Hi there, I'm the homeowner." "That package is for me," I said calmly, nodding at the driver while trying to ignore Karen's piercing glare. Karen positioned herself between us. "I'm Karen Wilkins, president of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA," she announced, emphasizing each letter like she was reciting royal titles. "And we have very strict rules about deliveries in this neighborhood." I sighed, already feeling my blood pressure rise. "Karen, this is medical equipment I've been waiting months for. It's approved by insurance and necessary for my recovery." Her eyes narrowed as she looked me up and down, as if trying to diagnose what might be wrong with me. "Well," she sniffed, "you should have submitted a delivery request form to the HOA board at least 2 weeks in advance. It's in the bylaws, Section 23, Paragraph 4. She tapped her clipboard for emphasis. The delivery driver shifted awkwardly. "Ma'am, I just need a signature so I can finish this delivery and move on with my route." Karen turned to him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'll take care of this package. You can leave it with me as the HOA representative. I'll make sure it's properly processed according to our community guidelines." "Absolutely not," I interjected, stepping forward despite the pain that shot through me. "Karen, this is my medical equipment. It's expensive, custom-made, and I need it today." She raised an eyebrow. "Well, if it's so important, you should have followed proper protocols. This is exactly why we have rules." Her tone dripped with that sickly sweet condescension that made my blood boil. The poor driver looked helpless. "Look, I just need someone at this address to sign for it," he said, holding out his electronic pad. Before I could reach for it, Karen snatched it from his hands. "As the neighborhood representative, I'm confiscating this package until proper documentation is filed with the board." "We'll keep it at the community center until then." I stared at her, stunned. "Karen, that's theft. You have no right to take my property." She laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "It's not theft. It's enforcement of community standards. You'll get your package once you've submitted the correct paperwork and paid the rush delivery fine of $200. The driver looked between us, visibly uncomfortable. "I can't just give the package to someone else," he said, trying to reason with her. Karen's expression hardened. "Young man, do you want me to call your supervisor?" "I'm sure they'd love to hear how you're disrupting our peaceful community with unauthorized deliveries." That was it. I pulled out my phone. "Karen, I'm calling the police if you don't step aside right now. This is my property, my address, and my delivery." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Go ahead." My husband plays golf with the police chief. They understand the importance of maintaining neighborhood standards. Keeping my eyes on her, I dialed 911. "Yes, hello. I need to report a theft in progress. Someone is attempting to steal my medical equipment that's being delivered right now." Karen's face flushed crimson, but unbelievably, she doubled down. While I was on the phone with the dispatcher, she somehow convinced the flustered delivery driver to load the package into her oversized SUV parked across the street. How she managed it, I'll never know. Maybe it was sheer entitlement. Or maybe the driver just wanted to escape the chaos. By the time I finished explaining the situation, Karen was slamming her car door shut. "My medical equipment secured in her trunk. You'll get this back once you've learned to respect the rules. She called out her window as she started the engine. I've just described your vehicle to the police, I shouted after her. They're on their way, and this is grand theft, I warned. Karen just smiled, gave a dismissive wave, and drove off, leaving me standing in my driveway, phone in hand, completely stunned by what had just happened. About 20 minutes later, 2 police cruisers arrived at my house. I laid everything out for the officers, my order confirmation, the tracking details, even the HOA bylaws on my phone showing there was no such thing as a delivery request form. One of the officers, Detective Rodriguez, studied the documents carefully, jotting down notes. So she knew this was medical equipment and took it anyway? He asked, his expression hardening. Yes, I replied. She acknowledged it was medical equipment, but insisted I had to file HOA paperwork before receiving it. Rodriguez frowned. Given the value of this equipment, we're looking at grand theft. And since it's medical, there may be additional charges. He called dispatch, instructing officers to head to Karen's address immediately. While we waited, I filled him in on Karen's history, her arbitrary fines, obsessive surveillance, and the way she ruled the HOA like her personal fiefdom. The detective listened quietly, occasionally asking questions. People like that, he said finally, get drunk on even a little power. But stealing medical equipment? That crosses from petty tyranny into criminal territory. An hour later, my doorbell rang. Detective Rodriguez stood there smiling, and behind him, 2 officers were unloading my medical equipment from a patrol car. We recovered your property, he said. Ms. Wilkins wasn't exactly cooperative, but once we explained how serious this was, she didn't have much choice. Relief flooded through me as the officers carried the package inside. Thank you so much. Is she in trouble? I asked. Rodriguez's smile widened. Oh, yes. She's been arrested and is being processed at the station. Grand theft of medical equipment is a felony, up to 3 years in state prison and fines of up to $10,000. Her lawyer might negotiate it down, but she's facing real consequences. Just then, my phone lit up with notifications. News travels fast in Oak Ridge Estates. The HOA board had already called an emergency meeting and was emailing residents about a leadership transition following an unfortunate incident involving their former president, Rodriguez. Chuckled when I showed him the messages. Looks like her reign's finally over. We'll need you to come by the station tomorrow to give a formal statement. As he left, he paused at the door. We get calls about HOA disputes all the time, he said thoughtfully. Usually there's nothing we can do, but Ms. Wilkins crossed the line when she decided to take the law into her own hands. I thanked him again and sat beside my newly returned medical equipment. Moments later, my phone rang. It was Ted, the HOA vice president. Is it true? He asked immediately. Karen was arrested for stealing your medical gear? It's true, I confirmed. He gave a low whistle. The board just voted to remove her, unanimously. She's also been fined the maximum, $5,000. Before I could respond, I heard noise outside. Looking through the window, I saw Karen being dropped off by her husband. She'd clearly been released on bail. Gone was her polished perfection. Her neat bob was a mess, her eyes red from crying, her designer clothes replaced with rumpled ones. Our eyes met for a moment. The realization on her face that her actions had real, lasting consequences was unforgettable. Her mouth opened and closed silently before she turned away, rushing into her house as neighbors lingered outside, pretending to tend their lawns while watching the spectacle. When the case finally went to court, the judge sentenced Karen to 18 months of probation, a $7,000 fine, and 200 hours of community service, ironically, at a medical equipment distribution center for low-income patients. When the sentence was read, her composure shattered completely. She wailed, collapsing into her chair as tears and mascara streaked down her face. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she cried. The judge merely shook his head and moved on to the next case, leaving Karen to sit in the wreckage of her own making, facing at last the same indifference she had shown everyone else.